McCabe, welcome to the Petey Performance Podcast. Finally, we've been chatting about getting you on since I think it was season 1 last year, and chatting over and back on Instagram. So great to have you on, and it's, I'm sure, a very busy time for you at the moment, given that you are spreading your wings and getting out into private S&C in an online space. As well as that, you have big things coming up from your own performance standpoint as well with Antrim GAA. So we're going to get into both of those things as the podcast goes. And I am very excited for this one.
Cheers, Petey. Buzzing to be here. I've made it. I know we were chatting about it and chatting away on Instagram, so now buzzing to get the call up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we've gone out my own at the minute into my own sort of performance academy that I've been working on the side, but it's eventually took over into the main hustle now, and left the place that I had been working in after 8 years, Unlimited Fitness. And yeah, things pretty busy between business and football, and that's pretty much all that's going on at the minute. But no, exciting times, and I'm enjoying it.
All right, so I'm interested, first of all, in what does a typical Wednesday look like for you now that you've moved away from the in-person coaching as such, or as at least less frequent in-person coaching, and you're moving into that online space with the EMC Performance Academy? That's
the one, yeah. So pretty much I'll run through the week. Like today, Wednesday, basically Monday's one of the big days in terms of like check-ins, making sure all clients are happy, and making sure like the week's set up nicely. And then that takes up most of the day, and then sort of like coaching calls is in for me, like what am I learning, what am I trying to develop myself in, get my own training and that done. And then generally Tuesday, Wednesday are like sort of client calls and that, so check-ins, making sure everything's going to plan, bit of video review stuff, like going over speed stuff, things like that, program review. And then sort of Thursday would be like programming day, sorting programs out for the following week. And then Fridays are sort of finishing touches, and then bit of my own sort of development stuff again, and then aim to have everything sort of wrapped up for the weekend so I can chill and focus on training and performance a bit more. So I'd say that's sort of the work and the coaching, the business side of things, but getting training in here and there, a couple of team sessions. I was in the gym this morning for a bit of uppers, so no, hopefully get out for a nice walk. The weather's nice outside, so I'll get out for a walk and maybe a bit of a podcast later on, and de-stress. Well, not too stressed, like, but de-stress.
Yeah, but it's different stressors as well, and when you get into something new, it is a stress regardless if you get stressed about it because it's new. So therefore you have to kind of find your feet in it. But that was what my question was going to be, was when do you find the time to get the training in? Because obviously it sounds like you're out the door busy. So Monday to Friday, that sounds pretty intense. So then do you try and get your training in either in the morning or in the afternoon, or then you have your team sessions in the evening? Is that the benefit of being privately employed by yourself, self-employed online coach, and being like a high caliber athlete as well?
Yeah, so it's nice that you have that bit of freedom, and it's a case of as long as the degree, like as long as the work gets done, that's the main thing within reason. So generally my own training is based off, we'll look at the team training first bit, like the way I work with the athletes as well, is we work off the team schedule first, and then like pencil in the other sessions I need to get in around that. So Monday I'll have a gym session, we train Tuesday, Thursday, and then our weekend, whether it's a game or a team session. So Monday will be either a bit of speed and gym, lower body gym Tuesday, bit of upper body gym, and then just I prefer to get my sessions done in the morning. So first thing up, do a bit of sort of journaling, get my coffee, chill out for a wee bit, plan the day, look at what's to come, and then get out the door, get the session in, and then generally be back in to sort of kick off about 8:30 and then I'm looking to get stuck in the work there, like. So probably heading to the gym for ideally 7:30, but you know, you might stay in bed for another 20 minutes, so it might be more closer to 8 o'clock, and then you're kicking into work maybe 9, 9:30, like. But yeah, generally getting the work done during the day and then training either that morning or that evening, just depending on what the team schedule is.
Perks of the job, getting to stay until 8 now. There's no more 5:30 a.m. starts by the sounds of things. But I would imagine it's quite difficult now that you've moved fully online with yourself to take a step away from doing the work at times. And there is a lot of work there. And the thing with self-employment is there'll always be more work to do. So do you have to kind of say to yourself, right, I'm going to get this done at this time, but then after this time, I am switching off, or after this time, I'm going to the gym?
Yeah, 100%. So like you said, there's always something you could be doing. Like if you wanted, you could be sitting there all night doing something and you never really switch off. But it's trying to be, I'm getting better at it, like, but I'm trying to get good at getting, like, having set work blocks. So I'll know what I have on each day throughout the week, and plan that out on a Sunday. And then the night before, I'll plan out the day, just going through, like I have a planner there that goes through every hour of the day. So I'll know exactly what I have on from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed. And just try and set times for that and get it done within those times. And just it puts a bit of pressure on you to get it done, and then, you know, once it's done, it's done. You can park it there until you need to go at it again, or you move on to the next thing, and just tick it off as you go creates a nice bit of momentum. But yeah, getting it done on time, so that, you know, like if you know you have a deadline to meet, that you have to meet it, and then you probably have something you need to get to, so you don't want it hanging over your head all night, or going out to training and still having stuff in your head thinking, okay, I need to get this done, I need to get that done. It's just, you want to be managing yourself and your time and your energy as much as possible. Like,
absolutely. But the big question is, do you feel as if you've found a little bit of rhythm now and you're optimizing your work within the time frame that you're given? Because I know myself, if I give time to do something, it usually gets done within that time, but sometimes it does run over a little bit. So you have to kind of be a little bit strict with yourself, don't you? And you only get better by practicing it. So how long is it that you've gone out on your own with the EMC Academy or Performance Academy?
Just from the end of January there. Had the chapter at the start of January, and then finished up work January and No Limit Fitness, and then moved on just as January finished. So it's 2 months nearly on my own.
And have you started to find your feet now, do you think, with it?
Yeah, 100%. I think the routine's pretty set in stone, and I know what I need to get done. It's pretty, I'm sort of creature of habit. I like knowing what I have on each day, and getting like the same sort of structure, and structure works really well with me. But yeah, like you say, like tasks can run on, it can sort of take longer than expected, or if you're procrastinating a wee bit and scrolling through Instagram or something like that, it does take up a bit of time. But watching, you know, videos of Quade Cooper steps, not like so but no, it's trying to get better. It's always like a continual process, trying to get better and making sure that you are stricter with the time is one thing I definitely need to work on. Like,
I hope those steps you're watching have very intricate, detailed voiceovers on top of them as well.
100%.
But yeah, look, it brings people to the page. I suppose it offers a little value. So that is something that you do as well. And it's not that frequent, the content that you will post, I'd say, but the quality of the content that you do post is very, very good. Has that been a conscious decision by you to kind of be very, very happy and content with what you're putting out rather than putting out high volumes of content?
Yeah, 100%. I've probably gone through both ends of the spectrum. Like once I was sort of pumping out content, and like after a while I just started to dip a wee bit, and I was just more focused on I need to get a post up here rather than like the quality of the post. So yeah, definitely like the quality is probably the main thing that I'm looking for, but at the same time you do need frequency with it too. So it's trying to find that, don't even know if there is such a balance with it, but you need to try to find some sort of sweet spot with enough quality, or good quality with enough frequency too. Like, so again, a bit more planning required and sort of setting the time aside to get that sorted. But yeah, definitely trying to increase the volume of what I've been doing, but still keeping the quality there. Yeah, definitely.
But sometimes your focus will be taken away from content creation, because obviously having just left No Limits Fitness and gone out with EMC Academy, like that's your focus at the moment, is the functionality of that product and that service. So it doesn't really matter if you're attracting new people to the product or service, if the product or service isn't of sufficient quality, because you won't retain them. So 100%. I know myself, at different parts of the year, you'll be focused on different things. So it sounds like that has really been your focus over the last few months. And I'm sure that's why it's going really, really well. But what was it that spurred you on to kind of make that step? Because I know you were doing the online stuff as well as the in-person stuff, but did the volume of interest that you were getting as a result of the social media just become so big that you were like, look, there's something here, it's more scalable, I need to get out and I need to do this, and it suits me probably better because I am trying to play high level Gaelic football as well at the same time?
Yeah, I suppose that like a bit of everything what you said there. So in terms of my own schedule, like it does complement it nicely in terms of you can get that bit of work done during the day. You can get your gym in the morning, you can get the team training in the evening. You're not really having to worry about missing team sessions and that. Whereas the in-person coaching, you probably found it yourself. It's like most people will train either early in the morning or in the evening when they're not working. Then that's generally when you're planning on training or getting out the door to training. So a bit of that, and then a bit of like the sort of the time and the energy, the early starts. Like with this is sort of going with No Limits as well. It's more sort of Gen Pop focused, which like obviously I wouldn't be here where I am without No Limits and without Dan and the team there to help develop me as a coach. But I think it was just sort of the direction I wanted to go was a bit different to the direction they wanted to go. So I think it was just sort of came to that time where I had to step away from there. But in terms of my own coaching, like I would love, I have a group coaching program that I run sort of off season that it's going to be going forward. And I still love the group coaching, I love in-person coaching, but it's just, I find it's harder to run, harder to manage when in season. So trying to get a group of sort of 5 to 8 athletes on completely different team training schedules, trying to get them committed to 2 days per week in person at this time and everyone together is just a bit of a nightmare. When it gets to in season with things being unpredictable, different game schedules and that. So but yeah, with the had a bit of a bigger reach now, a bit more sort of scope across the country. It has been a bit more interest, and it's more feasible, more scalable to go online and still deliver a pretty good service. Like so, yeah, still getting the results there, and yeah, happy with how it's going so far.
It's also more stress for the athlete to have to get to you and the group setting. Like it's stress for you to set it up and run it, and obviously you're coaching it, so that's taxing as well. But as you just said there, it's another training day for GAA athletes who probably, if we're being realistic, don't need additional training days because they're doing so much anyway. And as well as that, you could have a group coming to you if they're all with different teams. You could have somebody on a game day +2 and somebody on a game day -1 on the same day. Like
and big time. Like we had that issue even with the when we were doing it off season. Like there was a fella he was in with the Monaghan seniors, and they were sort of starting back pre-season training, and they're playing club games and that as well. Their season had ran on a bit longer, and but then there was someone who was like completely off season, no teams were touching them. I was like, right, great, be full control here. And then he's like, right, I have to do this gym session, do this run session, I have to play this game. I was like, right, okay, when's the game? They're like, tomorrow. I was like, right, today's our speed day. You're doing drills, you're doing a warm up, and then that's you're done. So it's frustrating that way, like, but no, like athletes' well-being comes first and foremost, like, and you can't be doing any damage just because that's what the session planned is. Like, you have to look at the bigger picture, and sure, what good is it if you're just getting them to do a session for your own sake, and so they're going to break down from it, and performance is going to drop, and the goal at the end of the day is to improve performance. So you don't want to do anything that's going to ruin that or hamper that in any way.
Yeah, and you've got to keep them fresh for that game, because the game is the number one. Like, you have to be performing in the game, or else there's no point in coming to you for the training. So in that way, like, there's no point in getting them all doing the same thing on the same day if they're all on different days of their week, essentially. So with that, like, I find that if you are trying to manage that and you have maybe 3 different groups doing different exercises, it can be quite hard to switch from looking at one athlete doing one exercise, then straight over to another athlete doing a completely different one, and bringing your cues, bringing the right cues to each one and knowing what you're looking at, if you get what I mean. Because like with coach's eye, obviously it's very individual what you're looking at. Like, but if you're looking at one athlete doing 60-meter wickets, and then you turn over and the other guy is doing a 30-meter acceleration, there's completely different things that you're looking for in both of those. So we should be able, and that is the job. But at the same time, the quality of what you're delivering as a coach probably is going to be less. And that is kind of more stress for you too. So you're going to be probably, excuse the French, bollocks by the end of that session. So then if you have another session after that, you're not going to be coaching at as high a quality as you should be, essentially. So that is why it does benefit the coach and the athlete to go transition more into the online setting. And like with your transitioning onto the online setting, I would imagine that there was quite a few athletes that were maybe working with you in person that then transitioned over to the online. Did you have any teething problems with that, or was it just pretty seamless?
No, well, there was a few sort of went with it, and then a few were going their separate way anyway. But the ones that did go on it, like, still found, probably initially they were thinking, right, okay, well, we've been in person, we know, like, you're seeing us there, you're coaching us in person. They're probably worrying a wee bit about like the touch points, the contacts with that. But once they got into it, they were grand. There was no issues at all. But we just obviously had to have a chat and sort of talk about expectations really, and what's included and what's involved, and basically just said that yes, we've been in person 2 days a week. You've been getting your contact points here and here, but you're at a point now where you're confident, you know what you're doing. You'll still be getting feedback, you'll still be getting video feedback, you'll still be giving you pointers and cues. But it's just going to be in a different way. So we're still working on a similar program, building from where you've left off, but you're still going to get the coaching there, but just in a different format or a different layout. Like, but no, results are all still good with it, and feedback has been pretty good. So I think it's just changed that initial perception and expectations really. But at the end of the day, once they see the result, then they're happy enough.
Did anything surprise you about the process or about the results that you were getting when transitioning from the in-person onto the online?
I felt with the online, I actually get some, like, as a whole, probably get a better like experience or better result in terms of when you're there in the session, you're just focused on that session and focused on going through, right, okay, you're going through this, that, and the other. And you might get a chat about like what the nutrition's like, what's going on outside of that. But when it's online, like, everything's focused. Yes, you've got your training, but you've more time to focus on sort of lifestyle, sleep, nutrition, schedule, and just get a bit of chat with them and see how they're getting on that way. Like, so I think there's more areas, like the time that you spend coaching in person can be, I'm not saying that online is better than in person or whatever, but the time that's spent coaching can be directed in other ways when you're online, if that makes sense. So yeah, I suppose that's probably the main thing.
Right, I'm so glad that you said that, because I've had the exact same experience myself. It's literally like you just went into my brain and pulled out what I was thinking as well. But that is it. Like that's what I've seen. And there's a lot more value in the online, but I think it's only if the athlete is comfortable in the training doing the training themselves, and their quality of execution in that training is decent. Like, otherwise, then that's when you're trying to coach beginners online. It probably doesn't suit them as well, because they're not getting that immediate feedback on the session. So it might be a little bit slower to reap the rewards of, say, if a seasoned athlete or somebody that has a high training age transitions to online, because then you get to look at the things that are affecting the training, which the training generally isn't the problem from what I've seen anyway, especially with GAA athletes. It's generally all those things that you just said there, the sleep, the nutrition, the rest and recovery, and just planning which days you're going to do which sessions on. That's what they really struggle with, I think, because what they end up doing, a lot of them anyway, when they come to me first, is they'll just do a moderate level of training the whole way through the week, and they won't have any high training days at all, because they'll have team training sessions maybe 3 days a week, or 2 trainings and a match, and then they'll say, right, well, I'm going to do that team session, then I'm going to do a speed session a different day, conditioning a different day, a lower body and an upper body a different day, and then they just end up battered from it because they don't get any time to switch off.
100%. Yeah, big time. No, I found the exact same, and it's that case of just probably trying to fit it all in. Like, I always find the structure and the planning is one of the big things, like not knowing, basically what you said, not knowing where to put things in, and the common like feeling of, it's like a typical GA problem is like, I don't want to do any lower body in season because I don't want my legs being sore and heavy. And then it's like, right, okay, let's have a look. Like, what are you doing right now? It's like, all right, so my lower body session, I'm going to do I do back squats, I do deadlifts, I do split squats, I do all this, I do Nordics and all. I'm like, right, okay, any wonder your legs are sore. But, so it's just being smart about it and breaking it up and showing them what they exactly need, and working around their schedule, and probably getting that bit of trust as well. Which is probably a big thing. And once they sort of experience, right, okay, I'm feeling good with this, and then it's like, right, changing their past maybe negative experience into a positive one, and then that's gonna probably carry forward with the rest of their career, like, rather than being stuck in the trap that we've all probably been in before when maybe we didn't know as much as we know now. So yeah, it's definitely a big one.
I think it takes a few weeks as well for them to realize that, Jesus, I actually feel grand and I'm doing a higher volume of training than I have been doing before. Like, and it's because of this structure that I have in place. But sometimes you nearly remind them on the calls. You might be like, oh yeah, how's your ankle feeling or whatever, if they have a previous ankle or a history of ankle injuries, and they'd be like, yeah, actually, I can't remember the last time that I felt anything there, like, which is weird. And like, we know why that's happening. It's because they are optimizing the training that they're doing. And as you said there, I think there is a bit of a culture in the GAA, from what I've seen anyway, of two sides of the spectrum with their training. So they see real value in high rep hypertrophy stuff, and then real value in max strength stuff, like you said, with all your compounds there. But they don't really understand the middle ground between the two. So if they're going in to do a session, they're either going in and they're doing 4 sets of 12 in season, which is probably not the best thing for performance, as we know, unless you're an absolute beast and you just want to look and feel good already. And then the max strength stuff, like, obviously you're looking at improving your max outputs, but it's probably not the time to be doing that in season. Like, you should probably be optimizing that or focusing on that in your preseason. But at the same time, I'm kind of the opinion that I don't know if the transfer is really worth it with GAA athletes, to be honest, to be going and doing 1 3 rep maxes. I think there's a lot more value in working at lower percentages and working within those ranges of, say, your velocity based training of maybe like a 60 to 85. Now, there will be times when you go up to 90, like, obviously, but I think there's a lot of time wasted focused on that kind of stuff, like really, really, really heavy deadlifts and heavy back squats. And I'm like, well, like, maybe a couple of times in the season, but that's not going to keep you right, really, is it?
No, 100%. Like, I think it's you sort of hit the nail on the head with the risk reward and the payoff of it. Like, yes, it can be beneficial getting strong, but just that question, how strong do you need to be? But yeah, like, the stress that it's going to take you to just keep pushing numbers, and the effect that's going to have on you, the impact that's going to have on performance if you're doing that consistently over time throughout the season with training, with games. So I suppose just be a bit smart about it, and then if you're in the off season, you can probably push the boat out a wee bit more. Then when it does come in the in season, it's getting more, probably like 85% is probably the most we're going there. And again, that depends on schedule, individual goals, all the rest of it. But and it's in a low volume as well. It's not going to be hammering them, like, so. Yeah, I suppose definitely you don't want to be frying them too much, like.
No, quality of execution definitely is the most important thing. But one thing that surprised me as well when I started working with GAA athletes is, and we must stress this as well, because what it sounds like there is that I'm saying there's no value at all in improving max strength, which we both know is incorrect. Like, there is great value in improving max strength. But I was actually pretty surprised with the level of lower body strength in particular from GAA athletes. And I was kind of like, well, you're still getting injured, but if I look at your scores and your max, say your max weight that you're lifting, etc., like, you are actually pretty strong. So I would say that it's probably something to do with the firing of the muscle, or probably to do with your technique, or probably to do with just not being exposed to those lighter weights and moving at that speed and the faster contraction speeds. And I know that some people poo-poo the force velocity spectrum and say there's no point in doing all this, but there is a basis behind it, I think. And I think with the GAA in particular, it's missed. The middle ground is completely missed. It's either high rep or max. And it is changing for sure. I think Output are doing great stuff. Shout out to them, sponsors of the podcast. But I've seen my athletes in particular notice or have noticeable changes over the last 12 months in actually changing loads. And another problem that I have sometimes is I'll put in the percentages for them that they should be lifting, and they won't even tot it up. They'll just go really, really heavy, and then they'll be like, I'm feeling sore this weekend, and I'll ask them why, and then I'll look at their weights they're lifted. I was like, well, like last week we were on 85%, now I had in 70%, and you're lifting more this week than you were last week. I said, yeah, I was feeling good. I was like, yeah, but that's still not what we're looking for, like, you know.
I know. I suppose it's that trying to hold people back and telling them that it's okay to go into a session feeling good about a session, and not, or coming out of the session not feeling as if you've done loads. Like you're coming out feeling sort of sharp and good, rather than, fuck, I felt like I've gone through a proper workout there. And again, it's probably just about reinforcing like the goals of the session, the goals of the time of training, the period of training, rather than just, right, every session we're going in and hammering it here and trying to lift more and more and more each session. So yeah, I suppose that's the educator role we have as well as just coaching.
Yeah, that is it as well. Like, and you have to take the time to chat to the athletes and communicate that with them. And you have to have decent teaching skills as well. Like, I had an athlete last year ask me why we weren't doing like conditioning blowouts like the week of a match. I was like, because we don't need to, like, it's not going to improve your performance. And then I had to explain to them about training residuals. And then he said to me straight away after I explained it, he was like, yeah, do you know what? Maybe it's just for my head. Like, I feel like if I've done hard work, I feel more confident going into the game. And I was like, that's fine, but we have to kind of change that perspective or change that mindset, I think, because I don't want you going in feeling like you're chasing all the time. So you've put loads of work in. I want you to be confident that we have put the work in, but you're going into the match feeling fresh. That's the most important thing. And that's a mindset shift that I think has to happen in the GAA, because with a lot of teams, a lot of athletes, they will do conditioning, like heavy, hard, intensive conditioning every week of the season. Yeah. And it's a long old season, isn't it, mate? You know it better than me.
That's just noticed it's got a wee bit shorter, but I think they shortened it by 10 weeks or something. But yeah, it's a long season, and if you're doing high intensity stuff week in, week out, like you're gonna be battered and fragile, like, and outputs are gonna go down, performance is probably gonna dip, and it's just not really productive for anyone. But I think on some level we're coming away from the more side of things, but still think there's a bit to go. Yeah,
there definitely is, and we are gradually moving away from it, I think. And sometimes I worry if I'm gone too far the other end of the spectrum and I'm not actually pushing them hard enough. But when I do push them hard, they let me know anyway, so that's a good thing. Like, yeah. I suppose because you have to have times when you do that for sure. But I would be interested then, because we are talking a lot about freshness and GA players and their recovery. I'd be interested to ask if you have noticed a significant improvement in your own recovery since you went to online rather than the in-person, and if you've been able to push your outputs, as we just said, a little bit further and stress yourself a little bit more in your training rather than what you would have previously.
Yeah, probably have. More, I think since the first lockdown, I really noticed it. See, with everything just being put on pause, and I've sort of kept the same I built a good set of habits there, and it's carried forward the last 2 years or so. Basically, with everything getting put on pause, like, it forced, like, I had loads of time to train, loads of time to sleep, loads of time to eat the good food, get out and about. So like at that stage I was sleeping like probably like 9 to 10 hours a night plus a nap, getting like two sessions in, getting the food right. Everything was just still looking after clients and stuff too, but it was unreal. And the weather was brilliant too, so we were out training and going down to the pitch for a speed session and a bit of conditioning, and you ended up being there for 3 hours because you brought the footballs with you as well. But just in terms of that, like, moving forward, like, the sleep has been pretty good since then. Like, we were joking about it earlier about lying on in bed for an extra 20 minutes or so, but like, I'm pretty solid in like the time I go to bed and the time I get up. So I find I'm going to bed anywhere like generally in around 9 o'clock. I'm like, right, I start getting to bed here. But obviously without being team tuning and stuff, you might get home a bit later. So it could be anywhere from sort of 10 to half 10 on those sort of nights. But at the minute, at one stage last year I was getting up like 8 o'clock every morning, and like I've just sort of brought that back a wee bit. So around 7 o'clock I'm getting up every morning now. So bed between 9 and 10, up at 7 each morning, and just find that routine has me feeling good. That's probably the biggest thing for my recovery, and then obviously the food and stuff in there as well. Having the time, you're in the house most of the day, so you're cooking your own food. You know how much you're getting in. You're fueling for the sessions. You can place a bit more emphasis on it, which is good. And then you're not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning going to do sessions, or you're not running about all day looking after people, missing meetings, things like that. So yeah, found recovery has been pretty good. And in terms of outputs and that, like I've found like speeds get better, definitely get fitter. The amount of work that I've been doing, and just having that bit more time to recover from big sessions, from big games has helped big time. But yeah, still pick up a few niggles here and there, like, and have to obviously keep on top of them. But as a whole, definitely got better over the last sort of 2 years or so. Yeah.
So then, in terms of recovery modalities for the general GA player you work with, do you think sleep is a major one that they miss out on, or maybe even the biggest one? Because I know that I definitely do with my athletes, and it's not always, they don't always have the luxury that we have of being self-employed and getting that full 9 hour sleep or whatever that we're getting. Sometimes they're working on site, like they're contractors, etc. Like, so they have to be up really, really early. But then when they get home from those training sessions, a lot of them will eat a massive meal and then they'll stay up watching Netflix. And it's not a case of I want to be this guy that's like, oh, don't be watching Netflix, etc. Like, they need to take time to switch off. But I just think they do miss out on a lot of recovery and a lot of performance optimization, whatever the hell that means, by neglecting their sleep and not getting the adequate amount. And it's finding out what works for you as well, as you just said, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I do think sleep's one of the biggest ones, and like we have our weekly feedback forum, coaching forum, our first check-ins even, and it's just like looking at your week, and like one of them is what's been your average sleep throughout the week, and you get some here 5, 6, 7 hours, like, which I'd say 7+ is pretty good. And then those ones that are sort of in around 5, 6 hours, we're just trying to get up over 7 anyway. But yeah, it's definitely a big one. It's a lot of the time it can be improved with just looking at your evening routine and what's going on in the evenings. But then it's the case of some people do have to be up at 5, 6 o'clock to go to work, which is cool. But it's not always going to be possible if you're out late at training. Like, they're just going to have to accept it. There's going to be some days where you are going to have a bit shit sleep. But I suppose, I think I saw like you can't actually catch up on sleep. I would have been a fan in the past of saying, right, okay, so I was up early this morning, so I'm going to get a nap and I'm going to sleep an extra couple of hours and I'll catch up. I'll make up for what I missed. But I think I saw something, I think it was Matthew Walker or something, saying that you can't actually catch up on sleep. So I suppose it's just about trying to get it in when you can, and just accepting that some days you depend on your schedule. If you're in your schedule like that, then you're just not gonna get it in. But obviously do what you can to control what you can.
Yeah, Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep, I recommend to all my clients, and like, I'm right there with you. And as well as that, I think sometimes when we say that we're boring people that go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, people are like, well, I definitely can't do that. Like, so why would I even bother trying? But a very important thing, I think, when communicating with your athletes or your clients on sleep is, we don't have to make any huge changes. Like, I don't want you to change from being 12 p.m. till 9 p.m. in one night. Let's pull it back by 15 minutes and see where we can get with it. And I think they fail sometimes to see the knock-on effect of having more sleep, in that if you have more sleep, you're going to perform better mentally, and you're going to be more switched on, and you're going to perform all of your tasks for that day at a higher level. You'll get them done quicker. So then because your processing time is going to be better. So then you'll have more time then for meal prepping and eating well. And then because you're meal prepping and eating well before training, you don't need to eat a huge meal post training. You can just get something to eat, start unwinding, and get to bed at a reasonable hour, whatever a reasonable hour is for you. And that varies as well. By the sounds of it, you sound like you're a bit of a morning lark or an early bird. Like, you like getting up in the, or is it morning lark? It's not even that, is it? It's an early bird at an evening lark. Yeah, so you're a bit of an early bird by the sounds of things. So you like getting up and getting as much done as you can in early morning, but other people might be more of a night owl. And that's just based on their own circadian rhythm. But you've got to kind of figure that out with your clients. And that is something that you kind of have to figure out yourself as well, is I can't just have all my clients doing the exact same thing that I'm doing, because that won't work for them. What works for them is what works for them.
100%, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I find like in the morning, like there's some clients I have a separate phone for like coaching, and then my own one, just because I hated being on WhatsApp and seeing someone had messaged me if I was like, I'm not in coaching mode, I'm not replying them, but they can see them online. So I was like, right, separate phone. But I get some clients text me through it like 11, 12, 1 in the morning, like 11, 12 at night, 1 in the morning. And I'm like, how the fuck are you staying up? But then they'll sleep through to like 9 in the morning, and then they'll still get like their 8, 9 hours sleep. But I'm like, I don't know how they can do it. My eyes are closing after 10:30. But yeah, definitely like for me, it's a morning thing. I love like just getting up first thing in the morning, having a bit of time to myself, getting stuck into things, and then sort of freeing up more time towards the like after lunch towards the end of the day. Rather than sort of sitting on in the evening doing things like,
Yeah, I'm the same. I like getting up in the morning and getting my work done. I'm a bit different in that it sounds like you like to get your training, as in your gym sessions, out of the way in the morning if you can, and then take into work. Whereas I kind of prefer to get a good stint of work done, then go to the gym, then come back and do more work. But I find as well, I don't train very well in the early morning. I train better in the afternoon. So that's why I do it that way, I guess. And that's it. I had to figure that out for myself. I couldn't figure that out any other way. And that is something with your clients and with your athletes. You have to just try new things and see what works for you. And sometimes you'll be doing something for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you have to throw it out the next week. Like, I think they fail to realize as well that how little you have to do in terms of changing around your training, or in terms of training, to get the performance benefit if you're doing everything outside of the gym to a high degree or too high detail. Like, with your added conditioning, etc., that they ask you for because they feel unfit, or their added speed work, it's literally a microdose. Like, you just need to do a little bit of extra conditioning post session, maybe on a Tuesday, or if you're doing your speed, maybe you need to do an additional little bit of speed for 20-30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, I'd say. That's probably too long, but 20 minutes. Just get up to the training paddock or to the pitch a little bit earlier, get your drills done, get your sprints in, and then hopefully have an open dialogue with the coach. You might not, they might batter you in the session, but at least you know in your own head that you have got a small bit done. And you only have to hit max speed once a week, a couple of times, like, to get the benefit, because GA players just don't get exposed to that training stimulus often enough at all, don't they not?
Nah, not at all. And that's been probably the biggest thing I've noticed over the last while, even with my own training, is trying to keep it consistent. Like with my clients is a big thing, and like exactly what you said, getting to the pits like 20-30 minutes early, getting through your drills, getting your warm up, and getting those couple of speed efforts in. Like, GA is great for getting that sort of lower end and that mid range, where everything's sort of run about 70, but probably about 80, 85, 90%. But like, we rarely get the top end, or else the lower aerobic conditioning side of things. So I suppose your program's just sort of filling the gaps of what you're not getting. But and then you're conscious of, if you're getting fried, being constantly in that middle zone, then you don't want to add too much stress in on top of that. So I think we're coming around a wee bit to seeing that, right, okay, we need to be sprinting, but it's still work to be done. Like, I'd say in most sort of top setups where like there's S&C coaches in place, like it's getting there. But I think more maybe down a club level and that, it still has there's a bit of room to go.
It's gas as well, trying to explain to them about speed work, because they'll run a long sprint, like a 50-60 meter, and then they'll start jogging back. Yeah. And you're like, no, stop jogging back, because you're going to be waiting down there for ages. So just walk back, have a chat on the way back. Because they have this mentality of not stopping and go, because they've been trained into submission with that 85-90% so often. And there is scope for working in the mid ranges at times as well, like especially in your small sided games, etc. But you'll have days to do that, and then you have to push the outputs, don't you? And it sounds like, from your own perspective, you've been really pushing the outputs in terms of speed over the last 12 months, and you've been reaping the rewards with both yourself and your athletes. So is that something that you
Yeah.
missed out on previously? And is it something that you're finding a lot of people that come to you don't know where to start with?
100%, yeah. So in the past, I probably the typical, I suppose it's kind of what I'm doing, like why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because when I was younger, it was like, you're probably naive in searching the Google search, like what speed workouts for GAA or what to do in the gym to get faster and things like that. And I get the same questions and stuff. Like once you start to understand speed, you know that you need to be obviously sprinting to get faster, as mad as it sounds. It's like once you realize what you have to be doing, and then you get into that, and then obviously once you see the benefit of it and how you feel with it, then you kind of want to keep it in all the time. But yeah, a lot of time people come in and the feedback will be, I've done a bit of speed work before. And say, right, okay, what have you done? And it's like, turns out it's more like repeat stuff. It turns into like a conditioning session, or you know, they might get a bit of acceleration in, but they're not really getting near that sort of top end speed. So yeah, it's like just trying to instill those good habits, and once they do that, they start to see the rewards. Then their speed start to go up, and they're moving more efficiently when the quality goes up. Injuries start to come down a wee bit. They're like hamstring resiliency is going up on that as well. Like so, yeah, trying to bring it in is a big thing. Like, and since I've started it, I've definitely noticed the benefits of it. Like, and probably still could be doing. I suppose this is the switching between a GA hat and my player hat and my coach hat, yeah, where I probably think I could be doing a bit more. But then looking at the amount of training we're doing, it might be all right. But I think in terms of like the true top speed efforts, could probably get a wee bit more in throughout the week, where to make sure it's actually true top speed rather than like a sort of 85-90% jog.
Yeah, sometimes as well, athletes can be a bit afraid to do the actual top speed efforts because they have that mentality that maybe they have had a previous injury and they're a little bit fearful it'll happen again, like if it is a hamstring or a lower limb injury. But it's trying to explain to them, I suppose, that won't happen again because we do this, not the opposite way around. It's going to happen because we're doing it. If that makes sense. But like with the speed as well, I had the same thing when I was younger, and it's gas. Like when you think sprinting when you're younger, you just think, okay, I'll go out and I'll just run really, really fast. And you don't think in terms of your technique at all. You just try and get from A to B as fast as you possibly can. And although you may benefit from that slightly, you're not going to get the same benefit, I would imagine, as you would if you are getting some sort of feedback. So by the sounds of it, that's a big part of your coaching process with the EMC Performance Academy, is getting video and then breaking down the video and showing people where they can improve and what to look at when they're trying to improve their speed and their speed mechanics.
100%, yeah. I think it's definitely getting a lot more popular, where people are understanding that they need to improve their mechanics to get faster, and for like injury reduction and all the rest of it, less stress in the hamstrings and so on. But they just don't really know where to start, and that's where the coaching process comes in. That's where the video feedback comes in, especially if you're working online. Like, you need to be able to see what they're doing. So we have, like, there'll be weeks and certain days of the week in the training, I say, right, okay, I want a video of this and this. In the first week, it's like, right, I want a video of near enough everything. It may take you a wee bit longer this week, but just get a video and we'll see where you're at. Even starting the program, like a bit of a movement screen, seeing where you're at. And then, right, we're working on this, so only need to see videos from this for the next couple of weeks. Get a video review, point it out sort of on Zoom, right? Can you see this? Can you see what's going on? This is where we need to get to. And then even between that feedback, between WhatsApp feedback, or else between feedback of me doing the drill and talking through it, or doing the run and talking through it, just giving them different ways of seeing it and breaking it down. And it sort of falls into like people pick up things in different ways. So just trying to find the right style that resonates with them and what helps them learn, and then what's ultimately going to get them the result. So yeah, definitely working on.
Go on.
Go ahead. So definitely working on the technique and giving the feedback to make sure that they're getting coached with that technique. Yeah.
My apologies. I thought you were finished, and I said so at the exact same time that you said so. So I was doing a leading question. But so with that, it sounds like, well, I'm glad you said and so on and so forth earlier as well, because you can really get into the weeds with the speed work and you can go down a rabbit hole with it and start looking at real intricacies. So my question would be, what have been the major changes and the major focus points for you with improving people's speed mechanics and their running mechanics or acceleration mechanics? And then how have you come up with that process to your speed coaching?
So do you mean like the main goals and like what's been the reason behind trying to improve the speed first?
Not the reason, because we know what your reason is, because it'll improve performance. But I mean, like, what specifically have you been putting a focus on looking at when they're doing a sprint, essentially? And then how have you developed that process over time of coaching?
Yeah, so probably the common one with GAA athletes is that when you look at them side on sprinting, they generally have that sort of forward lean, legs kicking out the back a lot, so that when their foot ends up in front of their body, they're striking with the heel, foot in front of the hips, a lot of stress with the hamstring. So generally it's just about getting them, you see them very tense as well, and thinking like, right, if I just tense up and try and go as fast as I can, I'm going to get fast. So it's probably more in terms of the max speed side of things, getting them more relaxed, getting them more upright, focusing on cycling the legs through dribbles and that. So and then just bringing it back using drills that are going to help them with that. So a lot of like the upright stuff, skips, switches, dribbles, they're probably the main go-to exercises, and in different ways. And then getting them built up, but are getting loads of reps in as at a lower intensity, so more volume there. And then as they get more confident, starting to increase the speeds, reduce the volume, until they're sort of getting pretty good at it. And then we'll just sort of take the bit by bit, take the brakes off and let them go at it and see how they get on. It's
gas as well, because it's the same thing that crops up all the time with GA athletes. And I think it is because of the sport as well that they run so backside, because you're always focused in front of you and the ball is in front and you have to get there first. So then they do naturally have a lean, but as you said, they may strike in front of their center of mass when they're accelerating, which is actually slowing them down rather than speeding them up. So you're trying to explain to them how to do this as well. With the front side, it's gas when you get them to do like a dribble bleed into a sprint, and you explain it the first time, and it always occurs with every group. There's always a few in the group that I'll say, right, you're going to do a dribble, and then you're going to get higher and higher and higher, and then you're going to go into a sprint. And what they do is they dribble up front side, and then they just lean forward and sprint. And it's like, right, well, I want you to try and maintain some of that posture and some of those mechanics when you're sprinting. And sometimes there can be a bit of a pushback in that they may be like, well, I can't do that and run as fast as I possibly can. And I'm saying, well, you're going to have to do this and get a little bit slower first before you have the ability to get faster. And sometimes that can be a struggle to get through to athletes. But it sounds like most of your athletes have been really receptive to that.
Yeah, eventually, like we do like exactly what you mentioned there, where that's nearly a weekly occurrence. And when people are first starting off, and listen, I was probably the same with it, where like you think of just right, go, you're upright, right, go fast, reaccelerate, like lean forward, reaccelerate, and try and take off again. So just about trying to just keep explaining the why, giving them video feedback and explain what they're doing, why they're doing it, and trying to teach them and coach them and educate them on like what's happening and why what they're doing maybe isn't getting you faster. And then that's exactly what you said about you're going to have to go slower to get faster down the line. It's like retraining. They've been running a certain way for whatever number of years, and you're trying to retrain that. It's not gonna happen overnight. Like, but once they start to get a good few reps, to feel a good one, they're like, all right, okay, I can see what we're doing here. And then generally you ask them for the feedback, right? How did that feel? It's like, I just felt like it was like gliding over the floor and just cruising. And I was like, yeah, that's like, how, like, did you have to tense up? Was there much effort in it? They're like, nah, it felt sort of easy. I was like, good. That's what I want to feel like. I want to feel nice and relaxed and bouncy coming off the ground. So, once there may be a bit of resistance at the start, but then once they start to feel the good reps, they're like, right, okay, I've got it now.
That's always the word that comes back as well. Feel like I'm cruising, and like it's a hard point to get to, but as you said there, sometimes you can get closer to that point, and it is slightly different to what we would usually say. Like, and Keir always says is, how are you going to get better at a thing by not doing that thing? But because their mechanics are so poor and they don't know how to run front side, sometimes the drills that you do that focus on either their posture, their switching, how they react with the floor, sometimes there's such value in them, and they will have a knock-on effect of in turn improving their speed mechanics and their running mechanics. And sometimes in the first initial couple of sessions, it might be very minimal, the amount of actual sprints or accelerations that you will do in that session, because the whole focus is improving at the drills. But the big thing with the drills is there's no point in just doing the drills and improving at the drills. It's worrying about how does this drill transfer to this athlete and what I'm trying to improve with them in their sprint. So there's going to have to be some elements of it. But I guess my point on it is you don't have to go out and do crazy volumes of sprints. Like, you don't have to go out and do 8 sprints to get value out of the session. You can go out and you can do your bleeds, you can do your drills, and then you can do 1 rep of wickets, you can do 2 sprints, and that could be even a more effective session than one that goes out and just sprints for the whole thing.
100%. Yeah, big time. There's like 2 things you sort of touched on there. Like, one of them was, I can't remember if it was Sam or if it was Jonas from Speedworks when I was talking about it. They were talking about when you're first starting out the speed, I want you to come away with a sore head rather than a sore body.
That's a great one.
Sore head, trying to like get the hang of the drills, get the hang of the shapes, rather than just going out and just go flat out sprinting for the whole session. And then I can't remember my other point that you were talking about. Oh yes. So with the drills, just trying to relate the drills back to why we're doing them and how they fit into the technical model, or how they should be running their ideal technique, and not just doing the drills on their own, but you're always trying to get it. You're breaking it down into the drill, but then trying to piece it together as the full skill of actually sprinting. So it all makes sense. Like we're sounding like we're both on the same wavelength there.
I think so, for sure. Have you used any with your video? Have you used any software to kind of assess it, or have you been using mainly your coach's eye? Or do sometimes you ever get a video sent to you from an athlete and you might have to even go to another coach and say, here, just what are you seeing here? Because just to get fresh eyes on it, because sometimes I know if you're looking at a load of videos of sprints or a load of people sprinting, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming at times, and you're like, geez, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore.
Yeah. In terms of software and that, I haven't actually looked at too much. I tried to play about with can't remember the name of it now, but it was the one we were using when it was Binary. Yeah, coaching with Speedworks.
Read your mind again, mate.
Yeah, love it. They put a lot of my stuff through there, and I like the feedback, but a lot of the time I was looking at all these numbers and I hadn't a clue what was going on. So I tried to put a few of my own videos in there, but I could never get the hang of it. But yeah, in terms of like the feedback thing, like there are times when you're looking at loads and loads of videos and you're like, you nail one thing and then you're moving on to something else, and you're like, right, you're looking at their outputs and you're like, right, something's missing here. What am I trying to fix? So it's sort of like going back through, but I probably should use other coaches more and be like, okay, what are you seeing? And learning from other coaches. So whenever they see something, they pick it up. I say, okay, where can I see this? How can I spot it? And how do I have it there so that I can see it going forward? Rather than like just sort of going, all right, I don't really know what's going on here. Probably trying to find an example of it and see what's going on, rather than I don't know what I'm looking at.
Do you know what's great actually, as a piece of advice that I've done in the past, and I didn't even think of it in this way, I just thought about it in terms of shameless self-promotion, but I put a couple of videos up on my story of athletes sprinting and then put a question box and said, what do you see? And I got like a ton of coaches messaged me what they were seeing, and then they saw things that I wasn't actually looking at or seeing in the session. So I know you're big on the Q&As as well, so that could be something for you to do in the future. Real low barrier to entry, and coaches love coaching and coaches love talking about coaching as well. So I think 100%. There's definite value in getting it up, and everybody's interested in speed at the moment because speed is sexy. So it'll hopefully get you some decent engagement as well. But anyway, to move away from talking about that, let's talk about Antrim GAA. Now, this won't go out till the following week, but this weekend you're playing Westmeath. That's the final game of the round robin, is it?
League? Last game of the league. So we last week we played Louth at the weekend there. We played Louth the weekend. They beat us by 4. I think that was like a top of the table clash. So they're sitting top now, and I think there's like 5 teams in the running for promotion now. So basically, we need a win, and we need a couple of other results to go our way to get promoted still. But it's just a case of going and trying to get a performance after a poor performance last week. Like,
geez, you're gone very athlete on me now. Like the second the question comes out, you're like, oh yeah, credit to the boys. Like media training comes in.
Team did well. It's all about the team.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a mad out season for you though, because the results have been like, usually teams might put together a string of consistent results and then they might be inconsistent for a little period, but like you've been like win, loss, win, draw, lose, like through the season. Like it's been a strange one. What has been the major problem, do you think, well, you have been semi-consistent, but what has been the major work on, do you think, for next season?
Probably just more time playing at that higher level and a step up of where we have been the last couple of years. Like since I think it was maybe 2017, 16 or 17, we went back down to Division 4. We were stuck there for a few years and only got promoted last year, obviously. But this is our first year in Division 3. So since that, so I'd say just more consistency of playing at a bit of a higher level against better opposition and getting comfortable with that and then kicking on again. We still think like our training level has gone up, so we're still sort of, we know that we think with more in us. GS was just getting more exposure to that higher level and getting more comfortable with it.
I'm glad you didn't say, oh, it's all about the weekend as well. It's all about the match next weekend. But it is, like, at the end of the day. And hopefully when this goes out the following week, you'll be after a win against Westmeath and the other results will go your way and you'll be still winning a shout at getting promoted. But it must be interesting for you being part of this team, having broken in when they're going through essentially this period of success, like in that you did get promoted last year. And that was kind of your first year breaking into a starting position, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I've been in the panel back in the end of 2018, end of 2018, it came in like over the winter, and then played a wee bit in the start of 2019, played a couple of league games and then stepped away from the panel. And then get called up again. So I was out of the panel for 2 years and then get called up again when the new management came in. And yeah, pretty much we've got promoted from Division 4, had a bit of a started off well against Armagh in the championship, and then they ended up beating us hand enough. But go like a Division 4 team going against a Division 1 team where we're handling ourselves pretty well up until the last sort of 20 minutes or so. But 20 minutes is a long time in a game. And then this year we sort of picked up again and kicked on, and we're sort of competing for promotion again. So no, it's been exciting. And suppose coming in and seeing the difference of it's being in a different sort of environment of like, I was probably naive when it came in, when it was the first time I was in. And probably were in a tough spot when we were sort of in Division 4. And like there was a couple of games that year that could have went our way, and like one or 2 point losses in the first couple of games, and then you're looking after 3 games there, you're like, right, with the rest of the league here, and we can't get promoted because the first 3 results didn't go our way. Compared to like getting promoted there and then potentially trying to get promoted again this year. Like it's been a bit of a different experience.
Would you say you've come in with a new approach or a new perspective this time around than you did when you came in when you were younger, from a personal standpoint, and maybe from a personal standpoint towards the group?
100%. Yeah. I think when I came in when I was younger, probably a bit of an ego about me. Coming in young and expecting just, okay, I've been going rightly for the club here, this will be similar enough. But at the time it was still like body wasn't, I was probably well developed to an extent, but probably wasn't ready for inter-county standard. And then I was still sort of, I was in 19, 20, mates were all in uni. I was still like trying to socialise and have the social life and not really training like an inter-county athlete. And then sort of once I was away from the panel, I realised what I wanted and what I was missing. And I was like, right, okay, when if I get the chance, or when I get the chance again, things will change. And that was probably one of the frames I had when I was like playing with the club. I was like, right, what would a county athlete be training like, or what would they be eating, what would they be getting on like? So that was the sort of mindset I had and then that got me back into where I'm at. So I definitely think I'm a bit more mature and a bit more a bit more committed probably to what's actually required. So yeah, definitely different mindset.
But it sounds like that was a process as well. Like it didn't just happen overnight from that mindset shift. And that must be something really valuable for you that you can bring then to coaching athletes, because you can bring your experience as an athlete yourself to when you do put the coaching hat on. So is that something you do talk to them about? Is that, look, we're going to make these changes now when you might not see these results until 12 months down the line?
Yeah, 100%. Like it's just, I suppose you coach from a place, you can only coach from a place that you've been. So it's like talking about, if you find people that are sort of struggling with certain issues, you can like relate to them and how you've faced them, how you've got over them, how you've improved. And then just sort of what you've, like the experience you've sort of picked up over the last couple of years, you're trying to like sort of teach that or bring that across in a way that'll help them. And just through the lessons that you've had and through the steps that you've taken. Yeah, just trying to, I suppose that's the aim of all coaching. It's like when we work with a coach or when someone works with us, you're trying to fast track their progress and so that they don't have to make the mistakes you've made. So that's essentially what you're trying to do with the mindset side of things too. Yeah.
Do you ever have to tell your teammates at county or even club level to leave you alone? You're here to play. I'm not here to be listening to your problems and coaching you on how to be a better athlete. I'm trying to be a better athlete myself.
Actually hasn't been too bad. There was one stage of the club you could have to do warm-ups and that as well, and like I would have done a couple of them, and then I just got to the point I was like, listen, I'm here to play. I'm not here to I don't want to be coaching here. I just want to be playing. So you had a few conversations there, like, right, apologies, I just thought you'd be happy enough to do it. I was like, I suppose it was at the time, but then after
show me the money.
Invoice on its way.
Sorry for cutting you off. I had to throw that one in there. But yeah, look, yeah, 100%. And it's a problem with all strength and conditioning coaches as well, I think, is like we do love our job at the same time, but people don't realize that when we go up to play sport, that's our time that we're actually switching off. So you don't want to worry about the running mechanics, as we just said, of your athletes and doing their drills correctly. You're there to do something different. So that you can take that time so that you can come back rejuvenated to your coaching. But at the same time, I would say that it is valuable to do a little bit of that and educate your coaches on how to run an efficient warm-up, because it can be very, very tough as an athlete and a coach to go through a session that's being coached poorly, or a warm-up that has no basis, or it's not enjoyable and you don't know what you're doing. So at times, have you striven, is that a word? I don't know. Have you made a conscious effort to help coaches out with, look, I'm not taking a warm-up, but I will show you how to do an efficient and effective warm-up? Yeah,
there's probably been times where it's come across in the wrong way as well, where not so much the warm-up side of things, but more like, right, okay, trying to do it in a way where you're not seen to be challenging them, but trying to figure out like what's the reasoning behind things. And like we're running here and we're doing this session, and it's like, right, okay, and I'm clearly pissed off because we're doing this session, but I'm trying to do it in a way that, okay, like what's the reason behind this, why we're doing this session, and it can be very quickly shot down. I'm the manager here, you're not, right, fair enough. but you just have to suck it up and get on with it sometimes. But it can be a frustrating thing. But yeah, obviously you're trying to educate in a way that's going to be more beneficial for the team, and sort of explain like when certain things are prescribed by a coach, or if you are approached with something and you're obviously trying to do trying to help the team, because essentially you're playing for them and you want the team to do as well as possible. And if you're training with them, you want the best for you as an athlete as well. So you want to be doing something that makes sense and is productive. Yeah.
I'm a total nightmare as well. I know that's what you were really saying. If something's wrong, and the whole way through my youth up to this point, I still am the one to be like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like what's this? Yeah. And sometimes you have to just realize that is your first thing that goes to your head, and you have to take a step back and say, right, if I say it in this way, how is it going to be received? and it's not going to be received well. So as you said, it's a case of taking a step back at times and then having the conversations outside of it, but putting a brave face on when you're doing it and getting as much out of it as you possibly can, because as we touched on the whole way through, just because it's not the best thing doesn't mean there's no value in it whatsoever. You can always do something to improve. So with that, let's move forward into quickfire questions to finish. So the first one is proudest achievement to date.
So I'm thinking about this one. There were two, but one for sporting would have been the Ulster Championship debut last year. And then, like, in terms of life and that, like, probably going out my own coaching and just going all in on EMC Performance Academy.
Yeah, two massive achievements, obviously. And we'll give a shout out here to Sam Portland as well and his mentorship program, because I know that we're both part of it. And I know that with me, it was a big part of me stepping out and doing my own thing as well. And I'm sure you'll testify to that as well yourself.
Yeah, 100%. A lot. Like, Sam was probably the first one that got me really into the speed side of things with one of his workshops back in Belfast a couple of years ago. And since even through the mentorship and like getting clear on where you're going and developing as a coach and even the business side of things too has been massive. Like, so yeah, big shout out to Sam, legend.
He'll be happy with that. Right, favorite athlete of all time?
Probably Dan Carter, I'm gonna say.
He's the man. And like, just like, the man can do no wrong. Like, he's just good at everything, isn't he? Have you seen that that documentary they did on him? What's it called? Perfect 10 or something?
Yeah, watched it around 4 times.
Yeah, it's savage. Okay, favorite obscure footballer or footballing moment?
The first one that came to mind was Tyrone played Dublin, and I think it was like the 125-year like GAA anniversary or something like that. And there was a streaker on the pitch in Croke Park, like the first match on their floodlights in Croke Park, like 2008 or 9. I think
it was 2008. I remember. Yeah.
And we were all down the Saturday night, and then a streaker on in the pitch, and I was like, this is the maddest thing I've ever seen. So I think I can't even remember what age was I then. Maybe
probably 10, were you?
10 or something, 9 or 10. So I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think he had a flag painted on him as well, if I remember him correctly, on his cheeks or something. Gas. Artists you've been listening to a lot recently?
Bit of everything, really. Been liking a bit of Sam Fender, and then I'm just big into dance music as well. So I can be on the roller coaster, I'll be up and down. Just hit shuffle on the playlist, but a bit of Sam Fender or Brian Carney.
Brian Carney, I don't know Brian Carney, but I know Sam Fender's stuff. Top stuff.
He's a DJ from Dublin. You may check him out there. You're probably not too far home.
He's probably only down the road. Yeah, exactly. Right. Who's playing you in the movie?
Tough one. I'm gonna go for Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. I was watching him in Peaky Blinders last night. He's an absolute G. Like, he's savage. He definitely do you justice, I'd say, from an artistic point of view as well. Like, I reckon he's one of the best actors out there. Like, you just play anyone.
That's it. I think we're about the same size as well. Like,
what meal or food are you loving at the moment?
I'm pretty boring. I'll eat the same foods, like, probably near enough every day. Hard to beat overnight oats.
Overnight oats are savage, and great for getting your clients that say that they don't have enough time to start eating breakfast too. Books you've been reading lately, if you're reading any?
I've been slacking on the books. Haven't really been going through many. The last one I picked up was the high performance book. Only read through a couple of bits, but I definitely have been slacking. But I have been doing a bit of like business coaching course, so I've been doing a lot of that side of things. That was being taken up more of my studying side of things. So but yeah, definitely need to get back into the reading. So if you've any recommendations for me, hit me up.
I'll send them through. I'll send them up to you, little parcel for you. What's the biggest thing you've learned in the last 12 months?
Last 12 months, probably what you get out of it, what you put in this, depending on, regardless if it's training and coaching, business, you get out of it what you put in.
And last question then, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Well, he enjoyed himself anyway, so just keep enjoying it.
Okay, deadly on. Thanks a million for that. And I enjoyed that, so I'm sure other people will enjoy it too. But thanks for coming on. Great to finally put it together. And I'll be chatting to you whenever you come down here or I go up there, okay?
Thanks very much. Enjoyed that.